Hi, I'm Colleen Nelson, licensed therapist, trauma expert, and fellow badass woman ready to rise up right alongside you. This podcast, Let the Rest Burn, is for the woman who has ignored, attacked, or even silenced her inner voice because she thought it was broken and needed to be fixed. It's for the woman who is ready to rise up and fully step into her desire, her joy, her full power, and make the impact she was destined to make. For the woman who cannot stand one more second waiting, watching, and witnessing the world crumble and is ready to rebuild and expand into a better future. For a woman who is so done trying to fix the world, she decided to start with healing herself, and she let the rest burn. Hello and welcome back to Let the Rest Burn with Coco Nelson. I am here with Christopher Lewis. He's a dating and relationship coach. He is also the host of his own podcast, Dating Intelligence. And I met Christopher in Florida at PodFest. And I cannot tell you how happy I am that we had that chance meeting. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Chris.
I'm going to have to use this intro. What's up, people? Let's do it right today.
Right.
Hi, Colleen. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is an honor. I have listened to your podcast. I've, watched you work, and you have the most fascinating conversations. So I can't wait to see more of what you're doing. But today we are here to talk about you and your
I thought we were going to flip the script. I was hoping we were going to talk more about you on today. That's why I'm here.
Oh, you're welcome to do that, but I'll flip it right back.
Okay. All right. Let's get me out of the way, and then we'll jump into you, because this is the fun stuff. It's weird for me to be on the opposite side of this. So
isn't it? I know.
Yeah,
I hear you. Okay. Okay. So my question I ask everybody is, what did you have to burn along the way, along your path of life, in order to become the fully expressed version of yourself that you are today? And what maybe do you still need to burn in order to become even more fully expressed?
Ooh, I like this. Well, this is probably an easy one for me. One thing that I truly pride myself in, and what I try to tell everyone, is the fact that for myself, I had to let my ego go, and I did that at a very young age. It's one of those things where, and by the way, we need our ego for confidence. We need our ego for, just moving forward and just that thing. But, like that energy that we put out there, especially as a male. But I let people know that there's one thing that I pride myself in, and I say I have no ego. And the reason why I say that is because it allowed me to find out what my true authentic self is and what it means to me. And for me, it's just learning how to be aware, compassionate, and just, I'm in tune with everything. And that's something that you have to be in order to really, really know about others, to get along with others, and just, quite frankly, just to appreciate humans in general. As a kid, I always told myself, one of the things that I always wanted to do was just, I always found, for some reason, Colleen, I know what my worth is, and I know what my place is, why I'm put on this earth. And that's to make a difference, people in general. Me being a Black male, growing up in an all white society, I have to say for myself, my mom, dad, my dad's a doctor, my mom's a psychologist. We were considered the Huxtables growing up in all this in our world. So being upper middle class and not being around many Blacks as well, I had to really learn how to adapt and to find my way in that society. And I did that quite well by just allowing myself just to be my true authentic self, allowing myself to learn and to adapt. And that's basically it. So I try to let a lot of people out there know, especially a lot of men in general, just that you have, in order to understand women better, you need to let go of your ego. Because when the ego gets involved, we, as I like to say, we get our butt hurt when we get upset, or we get our egos bruised, and we don't know how to navigate that sometimes as men. So I try to put that out there as much as I can to a lot of people. And quite frankly, it just makes the world a lot better place to be in.
Oh, I do love that you speak to this in your world, because I think a lot of us are navigating dating, and I want to get into what the ego actually is here in a minute, because I do think it's good to clarify that word is thrown around in so many different capacities. So I want to hear your definition for it, so we can really dig into what does it mean to actually let go of your ego, and how do we actually do that? Because it's
Right.
challenging. So how would you define what the ego is?
So ego for me, it's like, so I'll give you what I feel like I pride my ego on. And it's just, once again, I said, it's just knowing your worth and knowing that you're confident. That's what we need, ego. And ego is something that, it can put you in any room and just make sure that you're just as good as anyone else. That's something that I pride myself on. Now, the negative side of ego for me is when we use it for, and I hate using this word, but I'm going to use it anyways, for evil. It's like I said, when people feel like they need to become something else when it's not going their way. And, a lot of people abuse it for certain things, as far as, like, once again, I'm going to use myself being a male. It's one of those things where a lot of guys use it to put down others, to make themselves look better in front of others. And I just, I don't think that that's something that should be used that way.
Oh, okay. I love that. So in the therapy world, we call that projection.
Okay.
Right. So it's like, you are taking this falsified version of yourself and you're projecting your shit onto other people in order to make you feel better. Right. So this is like the ego I think about as like the personified self, the part of us that is very human, that is very like, this is who I am, but it is not necessarily our intuition, our deeper knowing, our collective authentic soul, whatever you want to call it. It's this conglomerate of experiences that we've had since we were little, all kind of smushed together into this persona trying to live life as a human. So we need to be compassionate with that side of ourselves. We need to be understanding that this is just us trying to live in the world, but our ego should never actually be the one that is making the decisions and showing themselves when we are trying to connect and be intimate with people. But it is oftentimes what we put on the forefront because it feels safest to do so. Right.
Yes, that's exactly true. And like you said, something that we put forward when we feel like we're insecure and we're scared about knowing, going any deeper. In all honesty, right? So I feel once again, I always say, like, if you allow yourself just to remove your ego out of play and just allow yourself to really understand who you truly are or who you truly can be as a person, like I said, it just makes life easier. It's like your energy, it just projects your energy out there so much more. It just makes you your worth, your worth so much more. You move along doing everything just more confidently. And as we say, what does they always say? There's like this quiet confidence that people should have. It never should have to be fully outright and showed.
Okay. So how do we do this? My question to you is, Chris, in particular, how did you do this as a kid? Like you said, you grew up in a predominantly white community as the Huxtables, right? Yeah. How did you check your ego here? That's a lot to face as a young man.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Well, first and foremost, if we backtrack, so the reason why I do what I do is because I tell everyone that I am an advocate for women. I'm a guy who just loves women, who knows women really well, and I want to teach guys how to be better for women, but I also want women how to understand guys better, because quite frankly, we're all idiots, right? So it's something that I always say. I put myself in that category as well, even though I'm well beyond that, but I still put myself in that category. But growing up growing up in a house full of women, trying to figure out and understand what my role is in a house full of women, my mom and two sisters, older and younger. I always felt like the minority even in that. So it started for me in the household, with growing up without a dad, even though my dad's amazing. I love him to death. He's been in our lives the whole time. But just navigating a house full of women in itself, it's huge. So once I learned how to do that, it just started overflowing into other parts of my life. Like, I'm once again getting in touch with my feminine side. It's one of those things where a lot of people are afraid of that. And it's just a part of you where you're just more secure about sharing your emotions, allowing yourself to speak and communicate what most people won't. Because as a male, once again, the first thing is said, it's like, don't show them that side of you. You never want to show them, you're feeling like, insecure or whatever it is. So we use as we say, our ego to mask that and to become more of this person who we think we should be. So the best way I can say it in order to start by getting rid of it is just to allow yourself to sit in who you think you truly are. And there's a lot of people out there, even though I've met a lot of people, I'm sure you have as well, Colleen, where I can read someone out pretty quickly by just going, even though you're putting on this front, that's not really the true person behind that. You're just putting on this front because there's others around you and you want to be this persona, but then yet behind closed doors, you're the most innocent, sweet, or whatever gentlemen I've ever met in my entire life. So why can't we just lead with that foot forward without being scared of who we truly are and having to put like you said, a facade on?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I really think sometimes it's hard for people to understand how to do that. I think that's the piece that you're here to coach them to do. I mean, that is the purpose of the dating coach, right? Is I'm coming in and I'm saying, hey, this is how I see you. This is who I see you as your truth. And this is how you're showing up in the dating world. This is how you're showing up with women. Let's really try and get your authentic self out there. And then
Correct.
they have your support, they have your advice, they have your guidance so that they can start to make these decisions that are much more aligned. Because I think there's a lot of people that don't really know that the way that they show up in the world is a mask.
Yes.
They think that's how you're supposed to do life. You're supposed to be this person here and this person here and this person here. And you just get to be yourself when you're alone with yourself, right?
That's correct. I mean, we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome, don't we?
Yeah, we better. Otherwise, we're narcissists, right? Like each and every one of us, right?
That's correct. Yeah, for sure. No, but you're absolutely. I mean, and women, whoever the listeners, we all like, once again, it can go both ways. I'm only talking about one side, but yes, my whole thing is just the fact that I want to teach people in theory on how to find their true authentic self in order to become a better dater, in order to find what they're truly looking for. Once again, we all have our criteria of what we think we may want, but sometimes it's just not exactly what we're aligned with. So that's why I always say, know your worth and stay in your dating lane. That's one of my favorite things to say. Ooh. Everyone's got a dating lane, don't go outside of your lane. But until you truly know who you are, you will never know what that lane is, because you're always going to be searching and looking for something that might not resonate with you.
That is like the name of a perfect quiz that you should do for your funnel. What's your dating lane? And how I help you find it? Like you said that, I'm like, what's my dating lane, Chris? I want to know. I want to know what my dating lane is. I love that. That language is so powerful too, because it's authenticity is something we all want. Like most of us say, I want to be authentic. I want to be my authentic self. But when it comes down to that moment, that crossroads that you get to, where you can go to the right and you can say or do the authentic thing, and it's hard and it's uncomfortable and it doesn't always make people happy, or you go to the left and you adapt, or you become a chameleon, or you do whatever makes these other people happy.
Right.
And those are the moments that matter, right? We say it all day long, but when you actually get to the crossroads, you need to make the choice to go one way or the other.
Right. Now, don't get her wrong. They're both fun people out there. They're both fun to explore and deal with, because you got to play with it, right? To really find out who you truly are. I feel like, there's no right or wrong. I feel like you do need to, I call it like skating on both sides of the platform here. So you can teeter as much as you want to, but there's always an edge that we always have to look over and go, am I really going to go that way? It's just not really who I am. So. Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love trial and error. I think it's so amazing I choose left all the time. I'm like, this is fun. We're going to go in this direction. I just get hit hard with misalignment, right? I get smacked in the face by the universe, and they're like, we tried to show you, but you didn't listen to all the eagles and foxes and stop signs we sent you in your direction. You just bypassed all of them.
Oh, so that's what those things are that I see sometimes buzzing around me. Okay, I got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, they're symbols, right? So what are some of the crossroads in your life that you've had that you could have turned left and gone down this inauthentic part of yourself, or you could go right and go down the authentic side? What are some of your crossroads?
Oh, man. Well, I can start probably back to college. It's probably where it all started for me, where I really had this image of who I wanted to be growing up wise. So all through high school, and everything, I never dated in high school. I always knew that I had to get a scholarship for school. I was big in the sports, but also I wanted to be around for my mom, because she's raising three of us. So I wanted to be that perfect kid. My older sister was all over the place. My little sister was a complete bitch, So it's one of those things that was like, I had to be the good kid, and I took that responsibility on my own. So but I knew when I left high school that once I got to college, it's going to be about the girls, it's going to be about the fun and all this and that. Now, mind you, this is all in my head, because I didn't need to get a scholarship. My parents had money, but for some reason, I just felt like I wanted to make life easier on everyone. So why be an extra burden? So going off to college now, when I get there, it was just whirlwind of just different lifestyle, and learning how to adapt to a new lifestyle that you've never been a part of, but only see in of the image what you want it to be. Talking about imposter syndrome, I had to fit in quite frankly everywhere. So So that's where I first got the big whiff of it, of learning how to come to that crossroads of certain things. One of them was like, do I need to be this guy where it's just like, Mr. Rico Suave and just try to swoon all the girls? Or am I just going to be, once again, just Chris, who's just, the guy who sits back and just takes it all in and just really nice guy? Well, the nice guy thing didn't work for me. So that was a big crossroads for me, because I got shit on the first time. Let's just be honest. I saw this girl. She's amazing. And I wanted to go out with her, and we ended up going out. 2 days later, she didn't remember my name, and it just, and it hurt, because I was like, but I'm a good guy. Don't you want the good guy? And then I realized going, you know what? It's not about the good guy. So I had to learn how to find my balance. And the balance was just being a little bit of enough of a dick in order to make sure that the good guy in me still kind of got to navigate what he wanted to do. So that was a huge learning lesson for me, as far as like the dating space in itself and who I was as, Christopher Lewis. And I want to be the good guy, but I still need to make sure that I take charge of these situations, because once again, we can all get stepped on, run over. We've all seen it in our lifetimes, and just learning how to adapt with that. I think the second phase for me was probably after my modeling days. I did that 15 years traveling the world doing that. It was an amazing career. And I moved to LA. And for the first time in my life, I broke up with my now girlfriend, who we've been together for 6 years. But the first time we dated back in 2001, I think 2002, I broke with her after about 6 months. And I had for the first time in my life, this is a huge crossroad for me. I had to go let her know, I don't want to cheat on you. I think I might have met someone else, and I need to break up with you. Now, in the past, I would have just ghosted, ran away, did whatever. It didn't matter. I just did what I did.
Yeah.
But that was a huge crossroads for me, on learning how to communicate what I really wanted from someone who was an amazing soul, and not just ghosting them because I was scared and nervous, about just feeling like I didn't want to say I was going to see someone else. So that was a huge crossroad for me as well.
Ooh. And what's so powerful about that, Christopher, is that is what created the opening for her to come back into your life now.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Because you handled it with integrity and authenticity, and it gave her the opportunity, and you the opportunity to grow a little bit, and now come back into each other's lives, which
most definitely.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to the first crossroads here.
Ooh, that's going way back. Oh.
I know, right? Well, you said something, and I wanna pull it up and magnify it a little bit, because I want to make sure we're clear to the audience as they hear this, right? Something that I think happens in your late teens, early 20s, especially as young men, young women, is we try and navigate and figure out, what does it look like to have kindness and compassion and power? And so you use the words like, how can I be the nice guy, but also a little bit of a dick? And so I love that, because it is exactly what we want. But I want to clarify what that actually means, because anybody listening, like, I'm sure they really probably felt that in their body when you said that, like, oh yeah, if you're a woman, you're like, I kind of like that. And as a man, you're like, but how do we do it?
Right.
So there's this piece of needing to be kind, compassionate, loving, with a healthy boundary. Having boundaries, establishing those boundaries, communicating those boundaries, not being afraid to be a leader, to not be always available. We call that being a dick, right? But in reality, it's just not being available all the time.
Yeah.
And how somebody goes about doing that, we might give them a definition of being a dick, versus if it's like, like, I can't hang out on Saturday night, Tracy, because I have a very important meeting I go to every single Saturday night. So as much as I want to see you, I can't do it that night. That's having a healthy boundary, versus Tracy's calling you all day Saturday to hang out, and you just ghost her till Monday, and you're like, hey girl, what's up? You want to hang? That's being a dick.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I'm gonna go with the first one you just said, Colleen. I don't think I had the second one in me ever. So maybe once or a few times, but we'll go with your first definition. Much better.
Yes. Well, I like to clarify what that means, because I think sometimes people don't know, right? If you're looking to date somebody that you want them to have some power, you want them to have some of their own self-assuredness, really, we're looking for a man with boundaries. We want him to have his own life, right? We want to be told no occasionally, not a lot, but we want to be told no occasionally. And then we want the soft, kind heart behind it. Let's be clear though. I don't know if any of y'all that are listening are in your 20s, but when I was in my 20s, I definitely didn't want what was good for me. So I'm pretty sure that most of us dating at that time navigated the world with a very different mindset and one that was not very healthy, right?
Right.
That was.
We were looking through a different lens back then, it's just like, especially for when you feel like, you kind of have it all and there's just so many different options and just so many different things to do. And plus at the same time, underneath it all from my upbringing, my mom is like, especially growing up with women, I knew how to treat women really well. My mom schooled me very well. I was very chivalrous at the same time and all these things like that, which I still am to this day. So she set the groundwork who I am today, but just learning how to navigate through that and just different scenarios, like you said, I made sure that I did it in the nicest way possible. And just like you said, making myself a little more unavailable in theory. So, might always not have done it the right way, but that's ultimately correct.
So today, Christopher Lewis, what are some crossroads you see yourself experiencing, like now, maybe in the near future, where you're at this place where you have to choose the path of authenticity versus the path of least resistance?
Wow. As I go looking off into the distance, Colleen, I'm like, wow. No, that's a good one for me right now. It's just learning how to navigate my new career. Obviously, it's something that I've always been navigating. I've been self-employed my whole life. I've always done it really well. But when you add a new endeavor to your life and a new path, that's a crossroad in itself of just learning how to stop and go, am I really going to stick with the new path or do I need to backtrack and just kind of continue on what I've been doing? And quite frankly, what I've been doing, it's great. But, like my calling has always been leaning towards just, the dating space and the coaching and the relationship space. So I'm one of those guys because I've had enough experience of being self-employed and moving forward and learning how to navigate this space. The nervousness and the fear, once again, as they say, always drives you to be great at what you want to do. And right now, it's because it's like starting over again in this space and things happening in my life. It's the universe saying that, you know what, it's putting me at a really big crossroads of just like, can you do this? And it's playing with my mind a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, I know that it's the right thing. And it's my wit and my passion have never failed me in the past. So it's not going to fail me now. So I will continue to do what I'm doing and move forward. And if anything, it drives me anymore because I don't like feeling like I'm falling. I don't like feeling afraid. So that's one thing that pushes me and drives me to say, look, if you feel this way, then you need to make sure you do something about it. I've never been one to sit around and wallow in my pity. I've always been one to just say, you know what, if you're going to do it and do it well.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. So I hear so many different sides of you come out just in that one explanation, which is great. It's like you're acknowledging this piece of you that's afraid and does notice the vulnerability of starting a new venture, feeling a little bit like a novice and that second guessing that happens. It's extremely normal, especially even for someone as successful as yourself, right? You have done so many things in your life and now you're taking off in this new adventure. So I hear like the vulnerability. I'm painting this out for people because I want them to hear, what does it look like when we're standing at the crossroads and what do we actually need to do when we're there before we make a decision? So first, you named that you're afraid, you named some vulnerability, and you did it without shame-based language, I think is really powerful. Number two, you then recognized past experience and what happened when you were at these places before, and recognizing that you've done this before, you are successful in business. This is something that you can rely on. So you pull from past experience to give yourself present knowledge. And then number three, you reaffirm what the fuck you are about. Yeah. Right? Like this is, and that, so it's like you're standing at this crossroads and you're not making a decision based on that first gut response. Your first response was, oh, this is scary and a little crunchy. Yeah. This is a little hard.
You say crunchy.
Right? Crunchy. It's crunchy. You are making a decision based on what your truth is. What your truth is, this is what I want to do. This is what activates me. I'm going to push through whatever pushback I get. And I'm going to be okay because this is who I am. And that is where we make the decision from, is this place of assuredness. So
you're saying I'm good.
You
right.
are.
Thanks, Colleen.
Good. Yes. And step 4, get validation from somebody you trust. Yeah.
Well, I've done that a lot. You being one of them. So, I mean, yes. I know that the audience doesn't know our history, but as little as we have, I mean, I really have admired and thank you so much for everything you've said and done. So.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see you take on the world. I want you in the dating arena. I want you educating our men and women on what it really means to show up and be your authentic self and in connection. Mm-hmm. I want to know, like, when you think about your special sauce, your special flavor, the thing you're bringing to the coaching world of dating, what is Christopher Lewis offering people that is specific to you?
Well, I'm not going to say this. I'm not even going to say I hope. I know what's specific to me is the fact that when whoever does come to me and my clients that I want to bring in are people who are willing to do the work in a way that they're willing to get to the root of themselves. And once I can get to the root of who they are, without them even knowing, because once we start talking, I usually know after about 10 to 15 minutes on who I'm dealing with and what the issue is, because of the clairvoyancy and what that's one of the things I pride myself in, just getting to the roots of thing. And so, but my main thing is teaching people how to come to that conclusion themselves. Like, I can see it, I will ask the right questions, and I will help you get there. But ultimately, you will learn how to get to that answer by just coming back to full circle and going, oh crap, I understand now. I can show you how to do the work, but I'm not going to do the work for you. And that's one of the things that I pride myself in. So,
ooh, I love it. And I think that's people who want to do the actual work. They want to show up and they want to magnetize a partner that is their actual match, or they're partnered up and they really want to be this healthy, better version of themselves. Mm-hmm. This is exactly it. This is what I think we are missing in the dating world. I want two separate pieces here, Christopher. What advice would you give somebody who is dating right now? Okay. Haven't found their person. You can take me if you want to make me a little example here. Right? What advice would you give that person? And then on the flip side over here, we're going to say person who's in a relationship, but they're going through some stuff and they're trying to navigate growing in that relationship. Yeah. What would be your piece of advice for single, piece of advice for person in partnership?
Right. Well, for the single person, just I always say go in with eyes wide open, first of all, because we all, like, I'm going to use it as an example. I know that you're in the dating space right now. Yep. It can be exciting. It can be scary. And it also, quite frankly, some people just think it's a pain in the ass. Let's just be honest, right? Because you either have someone who's on the full end of the spectrum going, I just want love and I want it now. And then someone on the opposite end going, I guess I need the date now because I've been by myself for a while. So it's just like, just find out why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you dating? Is it because, you're of age now, because your clock is ticking, as far as guys go, because your mom's saying like, I just wish you'd find a nice girl, and something like that. We all have these extraneous things that are from outside sources coming that are actually giving us these sort of, push and pull. But I want you to make sure you're doing it for you. Is the timing right? Are you in a good place right now? Are you happy enough in your own singular body at this moment to say, I can now give this to someone else? And that's the easiest way I can say for a single person. Now, in a relationship side of things, which I'm in right now, as I've been 6 years in now again, it's that thing for me going, I need to make sure that I'm showing up every day for the person that I'm with. And, we also get stuck in our daily routines. We get stuck in our work. We get stuck in a lot of things, but we need to learn to make time for each other. And these are things that I'm going through right now as well with my partner, where it's just like, we were even talking about on how we need to make sure, like everyone says we'll have a date night, but what does that truly mean? Date night can mean so many things, but for us, it's trying to figure out something that keeps us, we have our own, in other words, I guess I'm gonna say we all have our own separate lives, right? In theory, like she's busy, I'm busy. But we need to find something a common middle ground that we both want to experience, try, and enjoy together. Like for instance, I play tennis. She's not big in the tennis. She has her thing. I'm not big in her thing, right? So we need to find something that's a good common ground that we're both like, yes, we're excited for this. We're excited to do it, whether it be traveling, whether it be as simple as axe throwing, whether it be as simple as just, getting up in the middle of like the living room like we did the other night. I just turn on music, we just start dancing. Something that gives you that connection. And sometimes that little 3 to 4 minutes connecting can last, a person days because you're right back in sync with each other. So, so that's that side of it.
I love both of these. And I wanted you to highlight the two different pieces because obviously my listeners run the gamut, right? Some of them are single, some of them are in a relationship. Something I find a lot, Christopher, is that the people who are here to grow, that are in relationship, sometimes they struggle to get their spouse, their partner also in a position of growing, right? So they're committed, they're listening to this podcast, they're doing the work, but their partner isn't. What would you recommend they do or say in order to activate this person into or inspire them to grow?
A doer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So something that I've been trying to tell everyone as of recent, this is a great question you asked, is because it's been resonating with a lot of people I've been talking with lately. And it's just the communication in general. You know, if you guys in relationships right now, you have to continuously communicate. And I understand what you're saying, Colleen, that someone is always going to be in that moment where they feel like they're leading more than the other. They're doing more of the work than the other, right? And then the other person is just kind of just numb, just kind of flatline, right? So I like to say in a relationship that, you know, everything has to be ebb and flowing. You know, the one person might be the yin, the other might be the yang. So you always have to be stepping up at certain times. If you're not feeling that from your other partner, I feel like you need to just basically just let them know. And a lot of people get stuck in a point where they just make excuses for their partner. They're just afraid to communicate what they need from their partner. Whereas it could be as simple as just asking a question. And one of the things I always say is the fact that your partner's either going to say yes or no. I mean, think how simple that is. They're either going to agree with you or not agree with you. But if you never ask the questions and communicate what you want, you're never going to receive that. And so what happens now? It's just going to fester inside of you. You're just going to get, you know, either really upset with this person. You're going to feel like, I'm doing this all by myself. I'm not getting any help. And whereas if you just ask for what you want, the other partner might snap them out of it just that quickly and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was doing that. Sure, I'd love to be back on this ship with you. I'd love to get back on board with you and join the ride with you again. But, you have to be able to have that sense of communication or to get to that point. Like for myself, if my partner, which, you know, at the beginning, she wasn't the best communicator, but, you know, I've made her become better. You know, I wanted that. I've sought that out from day one to where she says things now where I'm like, holy shit, like, where'd this come from? Like, but she goes, well, because you told me to be like this. And so, and I did. You know, so it's sometimes she has to rattle and shake the apple. I'm the apple out of the tree, and she needs to shake my ass out of the tree sometimes. So, but it has to happen both ways.
Oh, I agree. I think one of the most challenging things I see in relationships or even in the early dating stages is people are afraid to be very direct and very real with one another, right? They indirectly ask a question or they avoid it or they try and make an assumption. And then when it's too late, they wonder what happened. Right. So I think this, like what you're saying here is be direct, communicate what you need. And honestly, maybe you have been direct, maybe you have communicated what you need. So then you have to ask, then the question is within yourself, right? Like what kind of boundaries can I set if this person is not being activated by my language? And it's not about playing
big
games,
decisions
but it is
sometimes.
Yes, it's a crossroads, right? Yeah, it's one of those moments where you're like,
I'll be very honest. This is what ended my marriage for 17 years. You know, my ex at the time was asking for a lot, and I was hearing her. I just couldn't, like you said, I couldn't activate myself to respond in the way that she needed me to. So as years went past, or the latter part of it, she finally, you know, because of our communication, said, "I don't want to be married anymore." So we went to therapy for about a year, and then a year later, she goes, "I think I'm done." And one of the things that I want your listeners to know from myself at the time, because once again, goes back to full circle to the beginning of this conversation, is that I have no ego. And so when she literally said, "I think I'm done," the first thing that I did the next time we went to therapy, like this was probably 3 days later, we had our session, I said, "I read her this letter. Do you think that you could be loved, da, da, da?" And she says, "You know what? I think I'm done." So I looked at her and I said, "I'm sorry that I didn't live up to my end of the bargain." And so I looked at the therapist and I said, "Now let's talk exit strategy for us." And that's what we did. But because we're both accountable, it's nothing that she did wrong. She just needed more from me. I wasn't in the space to give it. And so I let my ego, this is what would have created a lot of problems right there, because I would have been hurt so bad, I would have lashed out, which most people do in that scenario. But I looked at her and I went, "I'm sorry, I didn't live up to my end of the bargain." And
Yeah.
to this day, we're great friends, for our kids, or we do holidays together. We do a lot of things together, but it's just what I wanted out of the relationship, because we were together for so long. There needed to not be any animosity, any anger in the whole thing. So
yes. And the exit strategy, I think, is something that we should all invest more time and energy into. I too am divorced, and my ex and I have a really fabulous relationship because we took care of each other in the exit.
I love that.
There are definitely hard moments. There will be
Yes,
hard moments moving forward. But like when you take the time to really care for the other person and care for yourself in the moments where you are dissolving a relationship, it gives you the opportunity to have a different kind of relationship in the future. Just
That's
like
correct.
with your current girlfriend, right? You honored the ending of that relationship in a way that aligned with your integrity. So then later down the line, you had another opportunity to be with her. You ended your marriage with integrity. Now I'm sure you're really great co-parents, right? Like there's these incredible moments when you actually honor that part.
Right. And once again, it just stems from just being your true authentic self, knowing who you are, knowing what paths that you've taken in our lives. Because we do change. Like, that's one thing about, you were saying earlier about relationships as well, that I want to mention is obviously, you can start at point A at the same space, but then eventually you're going to grow apart, but you need to find a way to navigate that time together in a relationship. For daters now, once again, it's just once you just have to be ready to get out there and to put your best foot forward. And quite frankly, one of the things I wanted to say about earlier is just have fun. When you're out there dating, make it fun. Don't make it like you feel like you have to, like it's some sort of like hard line commitment, or you have a deadline to follow. Just enjoy the ride, because sometimes you'd be surprised that you're going to meet a lot of new people doing this. Hopefully the other side of what I'm talking about are good people and just not some crazy weirdo or some jerk in general. But, for the most part, enjoy the ride. And I hope that your picker's good at that point too, because you can't have clarity unless that happens.
Correct. And okay, so Chris, what I would love to do for our listeners here is, you are clearly a gem of incredible knowledge. And I think that there's a lot of people that are listening on my podcast that do navigate this dating world and might really benefit from your services. So how do they find you? And, what are you available for right now?
So you can find me at Dating Intelligence and on all social. You can also go to my website. It's dating-intelligence.com. So everything's pretty much on there. You can find all my stuff there. What I'm available for everyone right now through Calendly for a 15-minute consultation, free consultation. So just try it out. Just, sign up on Calendly. Just 15 minutes. That's all I need with you. And once we get together, hopefully you'll like what I'm doing, and you will get you moving forward in your dating space. And if you have any questions, just email me or whatever it is as well. But just go to my website or my socials at Dating Intelligence.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you, because what I see that you have let burn in order to be who you are today, it's not just the ego, but it's about this idea that you have to be one person and do one thing your whole life. Like, I see you evolve. I see you grow. I see you expand. I see you step into your truth. And I want you to continue to do that wherever this path leads. I mean,
thank you.
You have something to share. You have something that is powerful, and we need help. We need help. Christopher, please help us.
The human connection. It doesn't have to be so hard. I just feel like I've been put in so many different situations, scenarios, and I've come out just happy. And one of the biggest things that I tell people is the fact that, my tagline is like, meet me today, be memorable tomorrow. And that's, I want everyone to think about that, because whomever you meet today, whether you're in the best mood, worst mood, whatever it is, just be kind, just be, human. And I promise you, the world would be such a better place if everyone was. It'd be such an easy place if everyone was. So
I agree. We are going to close on that note, because I don't think I could close it any better. Christopher, thank you for joining us. I am so honored to have you on, and I cannot wait to continue to have these conversations. I will put everything in the show notes for you all, but please go check him out. And hire him in all of the ways. Give him the 15-minute call, see what happens, see what magic gets sparked. And until next time.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. This was amazing.
Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate every single second that you chose to set aside for you and the impact that you're going to have on the world today. To be inspired, to be seen, and to hold space starts with the very actions we take with ourselves. Look at the show notes for more information. Like and subscribe, and share with friends if you feel inspired to. And as always, let the rest burn.